We turn to you now to make a new start. More than just tears, we give you our hearts. Let the people cry and call, that we might stand and
Okay, yeah, no, it didn't. Are we live now?
Okay, we're back again.
Okay, I think we're back.
Tell
Let's
us
see.
if you can hear us. Somebody.
Yeah, let us know.
You can hear us all right.
I'm watching here to see. Oh, that did come through the stream.
The funny
But
noise.
yeah.
We're doing
I
great
think
today.
we're good. Maybe. Let's
Are we
see.
good?
I don't know. We haven't gotten a comment yet.
Audio.
I'm waiting for comment. Anyone, let us know. Can you hear us? Is it working? It's working. Okay, good. Okay, we're good.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're
Got
back.
it.
We're back
Perfect.
together now, and just chit chatting here a little bit, and we mentioned the Royals. You got the
Yeah, I got the wrong
but
hat on.
the opening day of the Royals, I got to watch a little bit of it,
Uh-huh.
and Mahomes was actually there.
Oh,
And,
nice.
But he
okay.
wasn't up in one of the booths. He was sitting down like on the front row or something,
Sure.
talking to somebody. So he's
I think he's
part of that
partial
team.
owner, right?
Yeah, he's partial owner.
Yeah.
So it works well all year
Perfect.
round. All year round, a Chiefs thing.
Yeah.
all year round.
This is just the one. I have a lot of hair underneath this
Oh,
thing
yeah.
right now, so it's the one that stretches to cover it all.
So we're going to talk about revival. We've been talking about it, of course, in our church and each other. And I can't remember, maybe last time we were together. But anyway, 2 days ago, probably, I watched the news and I saw on my phone also that there was just an article about how young people are coming to the Catholic Church.
Okay.
And, I'd rather them come to our church, but
Sure.
I'm glad they're coming to church.
Yeah, church, sure.
But yeah, how I guess numbers, it's growing in that age group. And of course, we've already talked on this, and others have talked about on the college campuses. They had people said they've started 25 new Bible studies on
Wow.
campus just in California alone.
Nice. That's
some
awesome.
statistics like that.
Mm.
And so, people don't know what to call it, and some of the other news media are calling it, even Christian media is calling it, look, it's revival. They're starting, it's revival is happening on the campus.
Sure.
Revivals, I don't know if they said in the Catholic Church, but revival, things are rumbling in the youth, and isn't it good? And it is good. But is it revival? And just you and I can talk about it a little bit, that actually the answer is no. It's not really revival, full-blown revival in the classical sense. The Bible doesn't really say the word revive or revival much. It's
Right.
pretty small little,
Yeah.
but it's referred to because of the language translations in it, because the word revive comes from a French word and a Latin word, which I thought I might be able to say it in French and Latin, but I can't say it. But anyway, and it's the theme. The theme of revival is everywhere in the Bible because
Yeah.
from the French and the Latin and the translations, it means to come alive again. So it's important to know that that's what it's not come alive, it's come alive again.
Right.
That's revival. Now, there's others where people are coming awake, or they're being converted, or they're becoming believers. But and obviously, that's happening today. There's got to be some there at those Bible studies, or coming to the Catholic Church, or our church, or somebody's church that just has never mentioned Jesus, never prayed a prayer to Jesus, never even thought about Jesus. There's got to be some people like that.
Sure.
But that's not the general population. The ones that are coming either back to church, or Catholic church, or Bible studies, or campus studies, or worship explosions nights, worship nights, whatever, they already believe in God. They're not coming and saying, I'm an atheist. There are some, but I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. The masses and the numbers that are coming are people that already believe in God.
Right.
And also, the majority of them already believe in Jesus. Now, that doesn't mean they're coming alive in it, because most people today, even that believe in Jesus, are self-serving.
Right.
They're serving themselves. It's not a Christ-centered, Jesus-centered, church-centered, or even churches that are not centered on it are teaching selfishness. They preach selfishness, self-centeredness, how to improve yourself. And so, but that doesn't mean so that they're not aware of Jesus.
Right.
As we get around holidays, they know the Christmas story. They know the Easter story. They know some of the basics. And so when they're coming to these things, we can't really say it's revival if they're being converted, and they're talking like these are like first-time conversions. But anyway, the Christ-centered life. So when we talk about it, is it revival? It's sort of a yes and no answer.
Sure. Yeah.
So would you can answer this.
Okay.
So we just described most of the people coming of all ages already believe in God.
Yes, to an extent.
To some extent, and probably something about Jesus too.
Sure. Yeah.
So they're coming, and obviously then they would not be. Would you agree? Then they're not really pagans.
Yeah.
They may.
Yeah, I would say if they believe in God, then technically no.
Not a pagan.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not being converted
Right.
from another religion,
Right,
which some people are. Good for that too.
Yeah.
But the people that are being spotlighted right now, and the students and the people that are being spotlighted, I wouldn't call them pagans.
Sure.
They're selfish.
Yeah,
They may be living a pagan lifestyle.
Right. Yeah.
A worldly lifestyle. And so they do believe in God, and probably believe to some extent. So if that's the case, if they're not technically pagans, whatever kind of lifestyle they're living, then we're starting to get into, is it revival?
Right.
Well, we start saying, sort of, yeah, because if they have the knowledge and of God or Jesus, and maybe went to church as a kid or just not serving him at all, but now they're doing what? They're coming back.
Right.
Coming back. They're coming alive. It's a start. They're coming back, and they're feeling life.
Sure.
Okay, so that is kind of revival.
In a sense, yeah.
Yeah, in a sense.
Yep.
And so it is a start. But it's not really the full-blown revival historically that we've known from like the Great Awakenings, which masses and masses of people their lifestyles were changed. It hasn't hit that level in our country, at least.
Right.
We're having good signs, right? And but if it, is my opinion. Okay, it's not full-blown revival yet. It's the sense that it's starting, and it's receiving good publicity. I mean, the churches and the news media and that saying, "Hey, isn't this great?" Kids are coming, youth are coming back to the Catholic Church, or they're coming to the Catholic Church, or they're going to the Bible study, or they're going to the worship nights.
Right.
They're giving up beer night for worship night, and they're saying, and so it's very much approved by evangelicals and traditional Christianity in our country. All right. Now, here's the point I want to make that I think is interesting. So then we say, well, I'm saying, but it's not really full-blown revival. Because if it was full-blown revival, all those traditional people wouldn't like it.
Yeah, that's fair.
They wouldn't. They would not be so. The critics all of a sudden would come out. That's at least
funny.
Historically, that's what happened.
Sure.
Revival, the Great Awakening. Kathy, on when she was preaching the other day, mentioned George Whitfield
Yeah.
and the Great Awakening and Evan Roberts and the revivals and all these great Charles Finney.
Yeah.
Azusa Street. We can just continue to name these revivals. Well, when they happened, the mainline churches and regular folks, what we would call even evangelicals, traditional Christianity that we have today, they rose up against Azusa Street. They hated it.
Yeah.
And they said it was, a lot of them said it was of the devil and all that. So, and of course, Whitfield and the Great Awakening, they had as much opposition as they had favor.
Support, right.
Yeah, so this is my point. One of the signs of a true revival is not just God coming down and doing mighty things, but that the opposition also rises up.
Yeah.
God comes
sense.
down, the
Yeah.
opposition rises up. It
Right.
always has. And people criticize it and then say it's not God, and others say this is wonderful. So that's one sign that I don't think people look for. They say, is it revival? It's the signs of revival. It feels a little bit like revival, but we need to be prepared. And a lot of people aren't prepared because, they feel the presence of God and this is so good and we're coming back and we're worshiping and maybe some of them are jumping and maybe, dancing around or whatever. And this is so wonderful, wonderful. And as it grows and gets more intense, the outward signs also grow. As you know,
Right.
like we've talked about the Cane Ridge Revival, one of my favorite examples. I've used it too many times probably, but one of my favorite examples is the reporter would come and said there were in one corner, because they used to stand on tree stumps.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And as far as you could hear him, then another would get on another tree stump and talk as far as he could be heard.
Right.
And he said it looked like the people were mowed down by a machine
That's
gun.
wild.
Just the power of God went through and mowed them down like machine guns. Well, this particular reporter I don't think he thought it was that bad. I mean, he thought this is really something, right?
Sure, yeah.
But the mainline regular church folks, they didn't think that was good at all. And to me, I'd love to see. Well, I've seen that. I've been in services.
I've seen video of it.
Yeah, a video of me ministering.
Yeah, exactly.
And we had a youth service where people came from all over, and we had to rent an extra building because there were so many people. And it was a whole weekend, and there were probably, I don't know, they came and went 500 to 1,000 kids. Okay.
Wow.
Mostly high schoolish and some college like that. And hundreds of them came up, and it happened. Then you could just all of a sudden some kind of wave of the presence of God that is too overwhelming. I was going to say strong, but it's overwhelming to the regular body, to the regular senses.
Right.
Some kind of wave, and of course in the Bible there were people that fell down as though dead. An angel appeared to them, and they fell down as though dead. And
that's just an angel, not even
yeah,
the
right.
presence of God.
And so these are things that we don't want to anticipate and say, well, it's not revival if that doesn't happen.
Right.
But traditionally, bigger things happen.
Outward expressions. Yeah.
Bigger, overwhelming, just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Unmistakably God things began to happen. And so it's good, but most of the people today are not going to be terribly offended if they said, well, the kids got together and, some of them were jumping up and down and clapping.
Sure.
And some of them had their hands raised, and some were crying, and some, were smiling, and the music was rocking out. Like, okay, the parents, grandparents, traditional pastors, they might not want to go to that service, but they're not going to be upset that they had it.
Right, or that the kids went.
Yeah,
right.
but they'd be upset if a Cane Ridge Revival happened again.
Yeah.
Or if Azusa Street happened again, where signs, wonders, and of course Azusa Street is where speaking in tongues broke out again in our Pentecostal roots and the charismatic roots of today, which are, I think, the largest churches in the world now, are those types.
Probably.
Leaning towards those.
Yeah.
And that broke out. And, of course, when that happened, and the Pentecostal movement came, then traditional denominations like, unfortunately, the Methodist. I love the Nazarenes. I got roots in both of them. and other denominations and what became the Baptists and all that. Well, they're all of a sudden saying this isn't of God. This is of the
Right.
devil.
Yeah.
You know, and tongues is of the devil. And so if it would break out today, and all these people that are regular folks that all of a sudden hear, hey, a couple of thousand kids came and they all began to speak in
Yeah.
tongues. They raised their hands and they're speaking in tongues that we couldn't understand. I heard a guy the other day, he was saying again that speaking in tongues is not of God. He said, because speaking in tongues, he said it's a known language that the person might not know it, but it's a known language that somebody knows what's being said. So they're speaking another language that's a known language. And so these people that are speaking languages you don't understand, that's not speaking in tongues. And so I thought of the scripture that Paul said. He said to the Corinthian church, if I come in I'll use our language, as a
Yeah,
visitor,
sure.
as a visitor, new person, if I come in and I hear everybody speaking in tongues, won't I think that they're crazy,
Sure. Yeah.
that they're out of their minds? And
Right.
and so I thought, well, if you walk into a service and everybody's speaking Spanish that are not from Spain, you're going to go, oh, these people are out of their minds. They're speaking Spanish. It just doesn't
Right,
fit.
yeah.
And it's called the language of angels, not the language of men or women or people. So, it's just in a corner all by itself. And that guy, I won't say who he is, that guy, though, and he was naming names of preachers that he saw speak in tongues on the internet. And that guy, if he hears that something like healing or deliverances or speaking in tongues or shouts or falling down or trembling, they trembled in the Bible,
Right, yeah, yeah.
and they trembled at the sound of his voice, and if he hears that stuff going on, he's going to go on the internet and use scripture to say it's not of God.
Right.
Okay? So that's one of the interesting things. Right now it's favorable because it's like a youth rally. It's like a youth rally. It's like a kind of a rock concert for Jesus, And so, they're okay with it. So I just wanted to bring that up a little bit about it. Is it revival? Yes, it's the start of good things.
Yeah,
and I'm
absolutely.
happy about that. And we're seeing it in our church too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Who is coming new to our church now?
A lot of young
Yeah,
people.
young people
finding
and
us
young
on
couples.
ChatGPT. A lot of
Yeah,
people are. Isn't that
yeah,
wild?
yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, and so we're seeing it too in our church, and I'm
absolutely.
assuming other people are too. And so it's not the fullness yet. If it were, then there would be a counter to it, a rising up. So there'd be the coming down of God and the rising
A
up
higher
of people.
level conflict.
Yeah, a higher
right.
conflict. Right
Yeah,
now,
that's good.
it's receiving good press,
Right, sure.
and it's getting
It's
kids.
comfortable.
It's getting kids out of the bars, maybe. And that's, maybe it's
a segue.
but it is
Yeah.
it is a segue,
Right.
and it is a comfortable, good sight for older people and parents to say, "Well, I'm glad my kid's at a rally for Jesus
Sure.
tonight,"
Yeah.
and not what's that doing that pong thing where they try to throw ping pong ball into cups.
Beer pong.
Beer pong,
yeah.
not not. I don't think I don't mind. I might have played it when I was young. I can't remember, but I did a lot of things, but I don't remember.
Play anointing oil pong.
Yeah, right. And so they're doing other, and they're so they got to be happy about that.
Sure.
All right. So anyway, so I wanted to put this in terms that people could understand because when God began to move in the Bible, there were several instances where the earth shook, the church shook, the earth shook, and people would say it was I heard God, and somebody else would say I didn't. I just heard the earth shake or whatever. And okay, so I want to put it in those terms because that's scriptural, that there are
Yeah.
times in the Bible where the earth shook. Literally did, absolutely did. And so what I'm saying we're seeing now, I call it what scientists would call is a foreshock
Okay.
to an earthquake, a
Sure,
shaking.
yeah,
Okay, it's a
right.
foreshock. And basically what they're doing is it's seismic. I keep hitting my microphone. I
You're
got to
good.
change it before the next one. I guess I'll go over here with it. I'm like Kathy.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
talking with my
expressive. Yeah,
hands.
smack, smack, smack. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I guess it's still good. All right. So anyway, it's scientists. So they realize there's increase in seismic activity. But the interesting thing about seismic activity is it goes increase, and it's the foreshock. Very few earthquakes come when we have increased seismic activity.
Okay.
Seismic activity
Just
rises
the rumblings of
all the time. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and so something's rumbling, and it's
Sure.
increasing seismic activity. But most seismic activity doesn't turn into a major
Full-blown.
No, it doesn't. And the other thing about when it does seismic activity, if it would turn into an earthquake, there's no way to predict it. To say this is going to be an earthquake, everybody.
They're saying there's no way to predict which seismic activity is actually going to be
Going to
the one
produce, and most of
produce
the time
something.
they don't.
Yeah. Okay.
But they
Interesting.
can't predict it won't either, because sometimes it does.
Sure.
But most of the time it does not.
Interesting.
So if we were to try to figure out where we are in revival and in moves of God and, awakenings and revivals and like that, I'm putting in it, it's like we're at the foreshock and we're seeing seismic activity. But
Yeah, right,
but at this point we can't predict that it's going to break out in a full-blown revival of the magnitude of historical revivals that changed nations.
Sure. Yeah.
Like the prayer revival that started in New York and swept the entire country, and people were praying and changing, not just on a college campus,
Right. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
all across America in 1857, 58. And you probably have heard me say this before. People might not know this, but out of that prayer revival came the Republican Party.
I might have known that.
Yeah,
Maybe I didn't.
I might have said it to you
Okay.
before, but anyway,
that's
so
interesting.
now we have the Republican Party, we got the Democratic Party, and all that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Republican Party
Birth from
birthed from a prayer revival,
Wow.
and out of the prayer revival came the Republican Party that elected Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was
Wow.
elected by people who had come out of the prayer revival saying, we need this man. And it was so many of them.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so the prayer revival kind of started the
super cool.
Republican Party.
Yeah.
You guys
That's
can
really
look
cool.
that up
Yeah.
like that. So we don't know that's going to happen, that something would sweep the nation that might start a new, who knows, maybe a new party
Right.
or whatever. We don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
A new movement or something. We don't know. So what I'm saying, where we are right now, it's seismic activity. Most of the time when seismic activity comes, a major revival doesn't come. In other words, the college kids go back, they graduate, they go back to summer's coming, they're going to go back in the summertime back to their hometown.
Sure.
They're just going to fit in again. They're not going to go and seek, they might seek out a prayer revival.
Right, yeah.
They might start going to church or find a church that really preaches the fire and presence of God. They might. But a lot of times then it wanes, or they graduate and then they don't have they don't have the college campus feeding it where
Sure.
thousands
Supporting
of
them,
kids
yeah.
are there,
Right.
saying rah, rah, rah. And so it doesn't it doesn't change the city, it doesn't change the nation, it wanes. So we're sort of at that point now where we're at the foreshock, and we don't know. We can't predict it like a scientist can't predict it, but we are seeing spiritual seismic activity.
For sure.
And then the next thing would be, it's called the main shock, and this is what we would call a regular earthquake, where they put it on it and they say it was a 5.7, 6.7, 7.8, whatever, earthquake, which that is seismic activity,
Sure.
but it's entered the earthquakes
Yeah, right.
level.
It's produced.
And,
yeah.
And so this is now where it gets to be the main one, is when the comfort starts leaving a little bit, and now we're seeing that nominal Christianity is able to go along with this, but then nominal Christianity begins to say, I don't know about this. Or pastors begin to say, I do not want that earthquake. I'm talking
Yeah,
spiritual
right.
now.
And, yeah.
I don't want that to happen in my
Right.
church, or it will not happen in my
Right.
church. And at that point, then people who are really hungry for God, sometimes they move away from that. And that's what happened to, in the late 1800s, before the Pentecostal things in Azusa Street happened. The Methodist Church was the most fiery. Nazarenes
this,
too.
yes.
Nazarenes too.
I've
But
heard this.
they were called shouting Methodists. They were loud. They were bold. They were into holiness. It was John Wesley's
Yeah.
roots.
Yep.
And as soon as they rejected what God was doing with the Holy Spirit in the early 1900s, now they've waned and waned, and now, of course,
Was there a split then in the Methodists?
back then.
Yeah. I don't remember.
I don't. Not as. It wasn't a formal split, but
Okay.
people split from it.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
today we've had a formal split, because now those same people with roots in shouting Methodists are ordaining homosexuals, you know,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
different and supporting alternate lifestyles that their ancestors, if they were Methodists, wouldn't.
Yeah,
You know,
not
would
have
never.
it,
They
yeah.
wouldn't have any.
Right.
They wouldn't. They were a holiness group.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
right.
so they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't have done that. So anyway, when that happens, then we have the main shock. The now applauding Sunday morning conservative nominal Christian attenders will begin to oppose
Right.
it. And other people will say, no, it's God. Other people will say it's not God. Some, let's see, which revival was it? Well, Azusa Street was one, and some of the Great Awakenings. They got a lot of press in newspapers.
Sure.
Newspapers aren't so big anymore, but
No.
but it'd be like getting a lot of internet press,
Yeah,
you know,
views or tweets or
and
something, yeah.
podcast people talking about it, or news people talking about it, which they are a little bit today. But I mean, it was heavy.
Yeah.
And the problem that they had as the newspaper were they could not deny the transformation of people, cities, marriages, homes, churches. And so people that said, well, we don't like it, and we don't like you reporting on it, they said, well, how can we not report on it? It's transforming
Yeah. Wow.
America,
The fruit's
really.
undeniable.
It's
Yeah.
transforming lives, which is transforming America. And that's why we want to go to the main shock,
Yeah.
because we want to see America transform where it's a safe place again.
Yeah,
Where
for sure.
crime is not in the news every day. Where fraud is not in the news every day,
Right.
you know, where somebody wants to impeach the president every day. You know, it's just, you don't even pay attention to it anymore, because it's every single day is rising up, screaming. I've seen, I don't know how many videos I've seen by accident, really, people screaming into the face of police, or screaming and
Yeah,
spitting
right.
on ICE agents
the
and things
rioting,
like that,
yeah.
and the rioting and all that going on. And the nice thing about it is, the riots we're having today, I don't think it's changing America. I think it's opening the eyes of Americans, because now you see it, and you see people, they're dressed
What are
in
you
in
doing?
frog suits
Yeah.
and fighting. You know, who are these
It's
people?
hard to back.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're not the regular folks.
Right.
But regular folks, some of them would get confused about an actual, real outpouring of God's Spirit. Some of them would have trouble with it. But the majority of people that are going to support it are regular folks who have had a belief in God most of their lives, probably believed and maybe prayed that prayer of salvation, but now they don't have that fire, and they are maybe technically they're alive because they believe,
Right.
but they have not come alive on the outside to show a transformed life and
yeah.
to present that transformed life to America. And that's what we want to see. So we want to see that do it. So we got to be ready. And then the last part of it is the aftershock. And the aftershock then are little tremors. You know, they're not the little seismic ones that don't care. Obviously, an earthquake has happened,
Right.
and it'll actually can shake buildings, but it's not a real. It's an aftershock, just after trembling, and we always have, when we have great moves of God, then the aftershock, which is we're calling it in the Spirit, is very, very important, because the aftershock are the people that, when the reporters leave and the excitement wanes and the crowds at Azusa Street stop coming, you know, and things like that, or the Great Awakening, Whitfield gets such big crowds, and all of a sudden the crowds go back again. And now the aftershock is very important, because the aftershock are the remnants and the pillars of religion that are going to go into the churches, and they're going to be immovable, and they're going to continue to bring a revival foundation without the outpouring excitement that maybe changed the nation or changed the crime or whatever it is, made a new, not Republican Party, but a new, religion or something like that. Something came out of it.
Yeah.
And that happened. Oh, it was a great explosion and made history. But the remnant people in the aftershock, they become the indestructible people. They're still shaken from it.
Yeah.
And they're still shaken. So they're indestructible. They're not going to be moved by what they see, what happens in the news. If some evil comes back and tries to get in, you go, oh no, what's happening? Or whatever, political parties change, or whatever, a president changes. they are the indestructible people.
Yeah.
That get touched, they come back alive to God, and they stay alive, and they stay alive,
Truly,
and they
yeah.
stay alive. And of course, you've heard enough stories of the Smithton outpouring and then the Kansas City revival, which
Mm-hmm.
your family came into, that even now, that meant 30 years later, 25 years later,
Yeah.
there are people all over the world in this country that are the aftershock people.
Right.
They're still writing.
Yep.
They're still saying, I remember the day, and I'm still on fire. I'll never be the
So
same.
we get those comments all
again."
the time, and
Yeah.
messages coming in of
Yeah.
people saying that.
Of all those years, they're the aftershock.
pretty
They're
cool,
the
yeah.
indestructible that became living sacrifices
Yep.
after the excitement
Yeah.
came down and the news went and it wasn't on TV anymore.
Right.
And so they're the ones then after revival keep the blessings of revival flowing into a nation.
Yeah.
And
That's
so as
good.
we go to that, we're in a usually the standard revival is a nation or a church or a person is in a big kind of in a mess.
Yeah.
And they start seeking, and God starts coming alive, and it gets better and better. They start having some seismic activity, and if you keep pursuing, it gets better and better until it personally, church, city, or nation somehow explodes in a greater
something,
level.
yeah, right.
The main, like the shaking, the earthquake. And then it wanes a little bit, and then those people that we have are ones that, while other people have calmed down, they're the ones that keep the aftershock blessings
Yeah.
still coming.
Right.
Whether they just keep
That's
they
good.
keep us safe
Yeah.
in God, because as they said to Abraham when he came to Sodom and Gomorrah, if you can find 10 righteous people, 5 righteous people, he said, then I won't destroy it.
Right.
And so they're the ones that keep things solid. So
Yeah,
okay,
that's good.
so that's our
That's really
talk
good.
today. Is it revival? You could say yes, or you could say no, not quite.
Yeah. Right.
Or you could say let's hopeful that it continues on to seismic levels of the main shock that change a nation.
Yep.
So anyway, I just thought I'd use the earthquake.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Shaking a
Yeah,
little bit of
that's good. It's practical.
trying to figure out when I hear the news and where do I put college campuses? Where do I put college kids? Or they say they're coming back to the Catholic Church, or more young adults bought Bibles this last year than in the history of our nation. Where do
Wow.
I put that?
Yeah. Right.
Can I say it's revival? Yes, if I understand that it's the shock is starting. It's but it's not the main shock.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my analogy. I
good.
thought I'd
Yeah,
like
I
to
like
talk
that.
about it
Yeah,
today
that's cool.
and help people understand that, because we don't know what to call it sometimes. Now we can call it as long as we have an understanding what it really is.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, that's good.
You
Yeah.
did good in your hat today.
Thank you.
So thanks for being with us today. Till next time. Bye bye.